Hello, my dear friends. This is Ratna. I'm going to be College Gautam, Associate Professor of Chemistry. This is online sessions. It is today I'm going to take up the topic alkanes from organic chemistry, BSc first year, first semester syllabus. This is the second lesson from organic unit. First lesson already we have covered in the previous sessions. That is structural theories in organic chemistry. Now, this topic today, what we are going to discuss is acyclic hydrocarbons. In that, alkanes we are going to discuss. First of all, you have to understand hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons are nothing but the organic molecules which contain only carbon and hydrogen. They contain only carbon and hydrogen. If such molecules exist, they are called or they are categorized into hydrocarbons. These are cyclic and acyclic, two types. Acyclic means not having rings. Cyclic means rings. That is cycloalkanes, cycloalkenes. So such types of compounds are categorized as cyclic compounds. But this is acyclic hydrocarbon. Here they are a chain like hydrocarbons which contain carbon and hydrogen. Based on the nature of the bonding between carbon-carbon, they are again further classified into different types, of which the main classification is alkanes, alkenes, alkynes. Three major classifications, which we discuss here. Now the topic, our topic is alkanes. What are alkanes? Alkanes are nothing but saturated hydrocarbons. You can call them as saturated hydrocarbons. Why we use the name saturated? The reason is that carbon is having only single bonds with remaining carbons and hydrogens. And since we don't have any oxygen or nitrogen, any heteroatom here, that's why we have only two atoms, that is carbon and hydrogen. So each carbon is having four single bonds with either other carbons or with hydrogen, whatever it is. But it has only single bond. So carbon-carbon single bonds are present in alkane. That's why it is no more unsaturated. It is perfectly saturated. That is the main reason why we call it as saturated. Here saturation means not having double bonds or triple bonds. So that is the meaning of saturated hydrocarbon. The best examples are alkanes. Now look at the general formula of alkanes. Alkanes have the general formula CnH2n plus 2. This is a general formula for any kind of alkane. That is, for n carbon atoms, we have 2n plus 2 hydrogen atoms. For example, the first molecule of alkanes is methane, where only one carbon is there. So for one carbon, n is equal to 1. H number becomes 2n plus 2 means 2 plus 2, 4. So number of hydrogens required is 4. So CH4. So CH4 is the first molecule, which is called as methane. So CH4 is the first entity of alkanes. Similarly, with increasing the number of carbons, the nomenclature is different and it is pronounced as C2H6, methane, with two carbons. And with three carbons, it is propane. If it has four carbons, it is called butane. Similarly, if it is having five carbons, it is called pentane. Six carbons, hexane. Seven, heptane. And eight carbons means octane. 9 carbons, nonane. And if the alkane has 10 carbons, it is called decane. C10H22, the formula. And you can see the analogous series, how the series is developed. CH4 is the first methane, whereas if you write the ethane, C2H6, it is written as CH3, CH3. That is two CH3s where C bond is there. Similarly, it will continue like that, CH3, CH2, CH3 and CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3 for butane. So it goes on like that. So alkanes means not all the time it has only chain, it has branches also. For example, propane is there, butane is there, The propane further cannot be modified, but butane can be written in different ways. We can have isopropyl nature type of butane, which is called 2-methyl propane, can be represented as 2-methyl propane. So isobutyl, it is called isobutyl. So such cases we can write different branches if there is any such possibility. Whatever the number of what branches it may have, but the carbon is having valency 4, therefore it must have 4 single bonds attached to it. Look at the carbons and different alkanes with different carbons. Already we have discussed the structure of methane is what tetrahedral in nature because it is in sp3 hybridization. The carbon is in sp3 hybridization, and the 4 carbons are arranged tetrahedrally. Similarly, ethane is having what CS3 CS2 pyramids joined together. Similarly, we can show. So like this, the alternating bonds will go on. We can also have 2-methylized butane. So this is something different already we are discussing. And like branches, we have 3-methyl pentane, another type of branch. We can have 2 substances, 2 comma 3 dimethyl hexane. So that is also one important. Now let us take the syllabus. As per the syllabus, we are discussing here the preparation of alkanes. How to prepare alkanes? There are 2 important methods. Of course, there are so many number of methods, but here in our syllabus, 2 important methods are given. So let us have a discussion on that. Number 1 is hydrolysis or preparation by using Grignard reagent. So Grignard reagent is used to prepare alkanes. What is Grignard reagent? We have to understand this. Grignard reagent is a famous reagent developed by Grignard. It is RMGX, that is alkyl magnesium halide, is known as Grignard reagent. Alkyl magnesium halide, RMGX. So that is what we call as Grignard reagent. How to prepare Grignard reagent? The first step is the preparation of Grignard reagent. The first step, alkyl halide RX is, you see here, alkyl halide RX is taken. This is RX. This on reaction with magnesium in dry ether will give you RMGX, that is alkyl magnesium halide is formed. So this is itself is called as Grignard reagent. Now the second step, by using this Grignard reagent, how to prepare alkanes? RMGX on hydrolysis. RMGX when hydrolyzed with water or with any such reagent which can give proton. So the RMGX can also react with any such group which can give proton to give this reaction. So the proton is what is proton is nothing but H plus. It gets attracted to R. So here the RMGX dissociates into 2 ionic forms, that is R minus MgX plus. So magnesium being a metallic in nature, it gets a positive charge and R gets negative charge. So RMGX dissociates into R minus MgX plus. Therefore, the proton from water or any other group H plus gets attached to R minus. Therefore, it gives RH, that is alkane. The alkyl group is added with 1 proton, which gives pure alkane, and magnesium hydroxyhalide is formed as a byproduct. This is a simple 2-step process. The mechanism is simple. First, take alkyl halide, whatever we want, react with magnesium in dry ether, then it gives alkyl magnesium halide, which on hydrolysis with water or any other proton, loser proton which can give proton. So any such reagent when it reacts with RMGX gives RH, that is alkane. Let us take this example, ethyl bromide. So ethyl bromide means we end up with ethane, because ethyl bromide, the most important is the alkyl is ethyl CS3CH2. So this reaction with magnesium plus 2 and dry ether will give you ethyl magnesium bromide. This is Grignard reagent. So this ethyl magnesium bromide on hydrolysis will give you ethane plus magnesium hydroxybromide. The end product is ethane. Ethyl bromide we have started, therefore we end up with ethane. If you take propyl bromide, we end up with propyl. Propane. There is one type of chance that can we change the position, means it is very difficult to change the position of alkane hydrogen entering into different stages. So this is how we call it as hydrolysis of a Grignard reagent, alkyl magnesium halides. These on hydrolysis give you here. The example is taken with regard to methyl group. The previous session we had ethyl, but here it is methyl. You can see that methyl magnesium iodide. Methyl magnesium iodide is not reagent. On hydrolysis, it will give methane. So the lowest number is methane, what we can prepare by using Grignard reagent. The second important method of preparation is coal-based synthesis. What is this coal-based synthesis? So coal-based synthesis is a electrolysis or electrolytic process. Here we take a solution which is a carboxylic acid solution, that is sodium acetate or sodium carboxylate, what we call as, or any other potassium or sodium carboxylates we take, and that solution, that mortar solution is taken into a electrolytic cell. It leads to electrolysis process, and during this electrolysis process, alkane is formed by the dissociation of a carboxylate ion into different parts by releasing carbon dioxide and H2. So the most important point what we have to understand, that two gases are evolved at two different electrodes. At cathode, carbon dioxide is evolved; at anode, H2 gas is evolved, and sodium hydroxide is formed at anode, and alkane is formed at cathode. So the starting material here is sodium or potassium carboxylate. Here, whatever the alkyl group associated with carboxylic acid, for example, if you take sodium acetate, here in sodium acetate, the alkyl group associated is methyl. So it is methyl COO Na, that is CS3COO Na. So CS3COO Na indicates CS3 is the alkyl group here. Therefore, what we expect as the end product? The end product is a combination or doubling of the alkyl group. So always in this coal-based synthesis, we end or we get the product alkane in even number. Why even number? Means whatever the alkyl group are present in carboxylate ion is doubled here. That is, if you have methyl, because it is sodium acetate. In sodium acetate, the alkyl group is methyl. So methyl again combines with another methyl, so that it gives ethane. So the number of carbons are doubled. Whatever the R group, that R group is doubled. So if you have R as the alkyl group, then we get R, that is R in connection with R, we get at cathode. So this is the reaction. Let us take the mechanism how it works. So the starting material is sodium carboxylate. On hydrolysis produces alkane at cathode, and carbon dioxide H2 gases are evolved at cathode and anode simultaneously. What is the process here? Look at the process. Sodium acetate is the salt, the electrolytic solution, and it is dissolved in water. Now what happens at anode? We know that at anode oxidation is the process. Oxidation is nothing but losing electrons, that is liberating electrons. Electrons are given away. At cathode, the reverse process takes place. Electrons are taken, that is reduction process takes place. So now look at the process at anode. Since it is oxidation process, the anion reaches towards anode. What is the anion here? In sodium state, a state is the anion, sodium plus is the cation. So a state, that is CH3COO minus, it is the anion. So it reaches the electrode, and thereby it gives electrons to to anode. So here COO minus, there is one electron for one CS3CO minus. In such a way, if two states, that is CS3CO minus one, CS3CO minus second, if two such molecules come together, then what happens? They can give two electrons. So two electrons are given. Then what is the remaining part? The remaining part is COO with single electron. Then that single electron is broken in between alkyl and CO group, and this single electron from bond and single electron already available on oxygen, you see here. This is how we can explain. Here the bond breaking takes place after losing of one electron from each molecule. Oxygen is left over with single electron, and this bond is broken here between CS3 and CO, and this single electron is combined here to become carbon dioxide. So this is one carbon dioxide from one state, and one methyl radical is also formed. So during electrolysis, each methyl acetate, that is sodium methyl sodium acetate, in acetate one carbon dioxide, one methyl radical is formed. Similarly, two states, when we take two states, it gives two electrons away and two carbon dioxide molecules, two methyl radicals. Then the next step is the methyl radicals, two methyl radicals combine to each other to give ethane as the end product. So the methyl, it is addition of two methyls, therefore the end product, the alkane formed is ethane. So what we need to understand here, whatever the alkyl group attached to carboxylic acid is doubled. So that is very important to understand. Methyl group is the attachment attached to carboxylic acid, therefore methyl combination gives ethane as end product. Now come to the cathode chamber. What happens at cathode? In cathode, it is a reduction process wherein H2O molecules take electrons, two electrons given by the anode at the right side. That electrons are taken away and it gives OH minus and two H radicals, which further combine to each other to give H2 gas. So H2 gas is evolved at cathode, whereas carbon dioxide gas is evolved at anode. This is what we can see. So this is the mechanism involved in Kolbe electrolysis method. So what we have to understand is, Kolbe process is sodium acetate or sodium carboxylate is taken into a electrolytic chamber, and electrolysis is processed. So at anode, alkane is formed. Alkane is always formed in even number of carbons, because whatever the alkyl group it is present in electrolyte, that alkyl group is doubled. Now what are the chemical properties of alkanes? Now look at the chemical properties of alkanes. Alkanes are called paraffins. The term paraffins meaning is low affinity compounds. That means they are unreactive. In other words, they are also called as inert. Inert means they don't want to react very much. Why they are inert? Why they show less reactivity? Why they show low affinity towards chemical process? Why they don't react? The reasons are two. Very important reason is that it is a saturated hydrocarbon. That is, all carbons are saturated. They have single bonds, and they don't have any functional group. There is no multiple bonds, or they don't have any heteroatoms or any hetero groups with the polarization. So no such polarization is possible in alkanes. Therefore, carbons or hydrogens remain intact and they don't want to react with any other species. That's why the reactivity is explained based on the non-polar nature of carbon and hydrogen bond, and highest strength of sigma bond. That is also one of the major reasons why they are not reactive. Therefore, alkanes are inert in nature, as they don't have any specific functional group. Now, then what type of reactions we can expect in alkanes? So alkanes, because of its inertness, because of its saturation, as it is saturated molecules, alkanes, they cannot give any molecule or atom to others. Neither they are ready to take anything from outside. So neither they undergo addition type reactions nor they undergo subtraction of type of reactions. So then what is the method of possible reactions here is substitution, because they don't want to change their saturation state. That's why they undergo substitution reactions. In substitution reactions means um, one of the hydrogen in the molecule in the alkane are replaced with some other possible atoms, whichever are feasible here. Now let us take one best example is halogenation of alkanes. What happens here? Halogenation is the process in which a halogen, that is fluorine, bromine, iodine, and chlorine, whatever it may be. So halogen uh, is replaced, or halogen is entering into the hydrogen place. That is, one of the hydrogens is replaced with halogen. So this process is called halogenation. For example, chlorination. Chlorination of alkanes. So you look at the process of chlorination. The process takes place in presence of light or heat. Chlorination, we need light or heat, and here almost all hydrogens, that is for methane. For example, if you take the example of methane, almost all hydrogens, all protons are replaced or substituted by chlorine atoms. In such a way, if you continue this example, that is methane CH4 with reaction with chlorine in presence of sunlight. HNO indicates sunlight. So methane on reaction with chlorine, it will give methyl chloride. So methyl chloride is the alkyl halide which is formed there. So alkyl halides are formed, methyl chloride is formed, but the reaction won't stop here. Further, it will continue. How? So once methyl chloride is formed, this methyl chloride further reacts with another chlorine atom in presence of light itself. Then another hydrogen is replaced. Then it will get CS2 Cl2, dichloromethane. And again, there is a possibility of losing one more hydrogen. Therefore, it reacts with the third Cl2 molecule, and we expect CHCl3, trichloromethane, or we can call it as chloroform. CHCl3 is called chloroform. And at this level also reaction don't stop here, because there is still one more proton available on carbon. That's why that last proton is also replaced with substituted with chlorine molecule. Therefore, we get as the end product as CCl4, carbon tetrachloride. Carbon tetrachloride is the last end product in this whole process of chlorination of methane. So chlorination of methane will give you four different products. First is methyl chloride, that is only one chloride, one proton is replaced, and second is dichloromethane, that is two chlorides are replaced, two hydrogens are replaced with chlorine. Third is chloroform or trichloromethane, that is three hydrogens are replaced with chlorine, and last is CCl4, carbon tetrachloride, that is all the four carbons are replaced. What is the mechanism? The most important mechanism, this is from examination point of view. How do this take place? Uh, it is called free radical substitution mechanism. The reason why it is called like this, it is basically substitution mechanism that we already know, because one hydrogen is replaced with chlorine. That's why it is called substitution reaction. But what is the name free radical? Free radical means if the reaction is undergoing, the reaction is initiated with free radicals, then we call it as free radical substitution mechanism. Here what and how free radicals are generated? We already know that chlorination process requires light. So in light there is UV light, ultraviolet radiation available in light. So when ultraviolet radiation is available, chlorine atom or chlorine molecule dissociates into two chlorine radicals. You see the first step. So chlorine molecule in presence of light, ultraviolet light, it dissociates into two chlorine radicals, Cl dot Cl dot. This step is called initiation step. So in the whole process, the first step is initiation. That means there must be initiator first, which develops chlorine radical. Then once chlorine radical is developed, the second step starts. Second step is propagation step. Propagation means, what is the propagation? Chlorine radical interacts with methane, for example here methane, and one carbon and hydrogen bond is again homolytic cleavage takes place. Homolytic means of one electron is divided into two atoms. That is homolytic fission. So homolytic fission takes place and bond is broken into two single electrons. Then that chlorine radical attracts H radical and converts into HCl. Then remaining is methyl radical. You see here, this H radical is taken away. This is methyl radical. So the end product is methyl radical is the product. So this is propagation step. So once methyl radical is formed, again it attacks another Cl2, that is a normal chlorine molecule, and one chloride that is with the Cl dot. One chloride and radical is taken away by methyl radical, and therefore methyl chloride is formed. You see that methyl is having one electron and chlorine is having one electron. Therefore, on combination it will give methyl chloride is a molecule. And the remaining chlorine here, this is the remaining chlorine. It gets back as Cl radical. That is chlorine with a single electron. So this two steps, that is attacking of chlorine radical and methane to give methyl radical and HCl, and methyl radical attacking and chlorine to give methyl chloride and chlorine radical. In the second step, whatever the chlorine radical is formed, it will further attack in the, that means it is a cyclic process. Second step gives first step, first step gives second step. So both are simultaneously taking place in the mechanism. This is called chain propagation. So chain initiation step, first step, chain propagation is the second step, and third step is chain termination. Somehow we have to close the process. This process will continue as such. The reason why it continues, for several reasons. It is exothermic reaction, that's why it continues. So how to stop this? That is called termination step. In termination step, two radicals, whatever the radical is, maybe methyl methyl or maybe methyl chloride or maybe chloride chloride. So two radicals combine so that the process of further attacking on each other will go away. So each radical, if it is free, it is highly unstable because of its high reactivity. It can easily influence other molecules and convert them into free radicals. So this is free radical substitution mechanism of chlorination of methane. Yeah, you can refer it and you can note down this also, how to understand three steps. First, initiation step, where chlorine atom interacts with sunlight and converts into Cl radical. Second step is chain propagation, that is chain intervention, that is chlorine radical attacks on methane and methyl radical is formed, and methyl radical again attacks to chlorine to give chlorine radical further. Now the last step is chain termination step. The last stage, radicals generally get attracted. For example, chlorine radicals or methyl radicals or methyl chloride radicals combine to give end products, so that the process of termination takes place. So this is free radical substitution mechanism. And as far as free radicals are concerned, how to identify which radical is formed first. So it is very simple to understand. The tertiary free radical is highly stable and compared to secondary. Then comes first primary, and after that it comes methyl radical. So methyl radical cannot be taken as primary. It is simply methyl radical. Primary is if we have any R group present, so as a substrate, then it is called primary. So this is order of stability of free radicals. Now look at this. This is orientation. What we call as orientation. That is, whenever there is ambiguity, that means if we have more chances for the substitution of proton, this if different protons are available for substitution, then which proton is eliminated easily and which is the end product, that is a major product. So look at here, propane. When you look at the propane here, you see in propane alpha, that is terminating hydrogens are there, but in between at second position we have two hydrogens. So out of this, how many total types of hydrogens are possible for replacement? Only two categories. Methyls anyhow, the on two sides, two ends, therefore they have six protons can be replaced, and in the middle one CH2. So we can have further say that there is a chance of replacement of protons from middle carbon, which is nothing but secondary radicals are generated. So look at the diagrams here. Look at the diagrams here. Here you see that primary. Yeah, this is a primary radical. That is, chlorine is eliminated from the terminating carbon, so it will give you primary radical. And another possibility is secondary radical, that is from the middle carbon. If proton is removed from the middle carbon, then H radical is removed, therefore carbon radical is formed, secondary carbon radical. So in the beginning it is primary, and the red color it is secondary. This is primary, this is secondary. Now chain terminating step, in the last step, chain terminating step, again the chlorine radical may combine to either primary or secondary as such, or within themselves they can combine to other radicals, so that it is completed. Now what is the end product, which is the major product here? The end product is always secondary because of the more stability of secondary radical. Therefore it is 2-chloro-butane propane, which is major product when compared to 1-chloro-propane, that you can easily understand. So here the experimental evidence is also showing that 2-chloro-propane is 60% formed, whereas 1-chloropropane is formed as 40%. So because of high reactivity, the reaction proceeds like this. Chlorination of methyl propane. This is something different, which is odd. That is not comparable with the previous example. Here, two possibilities: methyls, three methyls are there, and tertiary carbon is also having one proton. But the major product is primary carbon. Primary carbons are substituted with chlorine atoms. Now look at this reactivity and selectivity of alkanes. What is this reactivity selectivity? Reactivity means the fastness of the reaction, how quickly the reaction will proceed. Whereas selectivity means once a particular product is formed, then it should not come back. Selectively, it should. So if the reactivity is less, selectivity becomes more. If reactivity is high, then selectivity becomes less. The best examples, if you take uh, yeah, if the its attack on alkanes, the bromine atom is much more selective than the chlorine atom. Why? Bromine is less reactive. Fluorine is highest in reaction. Its reactivity is very high. Then comes chlorine. Third is bromine, and iodine is least reactive. Therefore, as the reactivity is decreasing from fluorine to iodine, the selectivity increases. That means the product, required product, whatever the stable product is formed maximum with lesser reactivity. Yeah, just now we had discussed this. You can see here, uh, fluorine is highly reactive, so it's very difficult to control the heat evolved. Whereas bromine, chlorine is next, somewhat better, but bromine is less reactive, therefore it is highly more selective. Iodine does not react at all. It's very very difficult to react that. Yeah, look at this example. Here, how selectively we can write the product. same molecule is taken, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2-methyl butane. Here it goes like this: 2-methyl. Here, the chlorination process is on the upper side, bromination process on the bottom side. Now look at the major products. In chlorination, the reactivity is very high. So as the reactivity is more, you can expect different products into some proportionate values. That is, first product is formed uh, almost 30%, and second product is formed 22%. Third product is 33%, and fourth is 16%. So the least percentage is last one, fourth product, that is primary substitution. Whereas if you look at the second one, it is tertiary substitution, and the third one is here. This is primary substitution. Here it is tertiary substitution. This is secondary. This is primary. So all are formed to some extent. Why? Because reactivity is more. So whenever the reactivity is more, we can expect byproducts. That is even less important product also formed. But if you take bromine, for example, here you look at the all possibilities. This is the second one is the highest in nature, nearly 90% above. So almost 90% above tertiary bromo. What resulting compound is formed. Why? The reason is bromine is less reactive, therefore more selective. Exclusively, it will be or giving a specific product only. That is the major issue what we can understand. Now, orientation of halogens, already we had a discussion, that is which is the most likely to occur, that is where the chlorine is can enter into the proton and protons are eliminated. So already we have taken propane as a good example. In propane we see that one chloro or one halopropane or two halopropane. So this is what we call as orientation of halogens, and anyhow it is the secondary free radical which is more stable than primary free radical. Therefore, orientation will decide which is the correct orientation of halogens. So this is how we understood different molecules and selectivity and reactivity, how they work, and the preparation of alkanes and chemical properties of alkanes, and in that reactivity, comparison of alkane, chain reaction, what type of chain reaction is halogenation, specifically chlorination. First chain initiation, second is chain propagation, third is chain termination. So these are the three important issues. Thank you for watching this video.